So I'm super excited to be here today to talk about transforming a process that requires form and workflow and approvals, maybe email capabilities and more, into a repeatable, measurable process that can significantly improve the experience for your students, faculty, and staff. So briefly, I'm going to talk about ProcessMaker, who we are and what we do, and then we'll talk a little bit about digital transformation, expectations of today's transfer students, and really the expectations of our geographically diverse workforce. We'll talk about transforming the credit evaluation process into an electronic, digitalized process, and then we'll wrap up with some additional information about a platform like ProcessMaker and how it can be used in hundreds of institutions and hundreds of processes across multiple departments on a campus. So ProcessMaker was founded in 2000 as an open source utility. In 2011, we had our first major university deploy on the platform. And then in 2019, we partnered with Ellucian for the Ellucian workflow, which is powered by ProcessMaker. So if you're an Ellucian customer and familiar with Ellucian workflow, that is our platform. By 2022, we now have we have over 200 customers using the platform. We have raised funding, and we are continuing to invest in process automation, specifically for higher education and community banking. And higher education is the reason that I am with ProcessMaker at this point, because they're making investments in the higher education industry specifically. So who we are culturally, we here, Michelle and I, and everyone else who works at ProcessMaker, we really live our mission, vision, and purpose every day. And my guess is that you do too. When I saw this, I thought, wow, I can really relate to that as someone working in higher ed. And really, that's why you're here today watching this webinar. So we call ourselves change makers. I'm sure that you're a change maker. If you're here today, you're probably thinking about something's got to change. There's got to be a better way. We got to figure out a way to make every second count. So ProcessMaker, we say, we summarize our mission, vision, and purpose in a statement that says, ProcessMaker enables change makers, that's you, that's me, it's Michelle here, to build and automate complex enterprise level processes in order to make every second count. And what we are a digital, what's called a digital process management platform, or a business process management platform, where you can design and document any automated digital process for any department or any system. It's what is called a low or a no code platform, so that you users, people like me, who I'm not a programmer, people in functional departments can build compelling user experiences with online forms or screens. Sometimes it's a form, sometimes it's just a screen displaying information. It allows you to capture approvals by email, maybe for those users that don't need to be in a system all the time. They just need to make an approval every now and again. And really different types of activities that cross multiple systems and multiple departments and multiple people around your campus. And because the platform here actually, it lets you design them, but it actually performs the steps and the tasks, it allows you to convert processes from offline manual processes to online automated and fully auditable processes. So EDUCAUSE, I'm a fan of EDUCAUSE. EDUCAUSE talks in depth and often about digital transformation, or DX, they call it. And I would say that in 2020, the pandemic forced many of us in higher education to move to providing services fully remote, and we had to do it very quickly. And so for many of us, that meant that taking forms that might have been paper, maybe we converted PDFs that were, online and just being downloaded and then emailed in. Maybe we converted them to a fillable form, or maybe they went and we changed them into Google Forms. The institution I was working for at the time moved a couple of them into our Workday process, but many of them we moved into a platform called Qualtrics, because it was a quick, easy way to create forms through their survey tool. But what that really meant was the forms had to be still emailed around for those approvals, right? Or someone had to go in and log into that system and download the information from the Google form or from Qualtrics on a periodic basis. So again, it requires someone remembering what the process is and doing something. Often we had to rely on a person, like if they had approval steps, or if maybe one person had to send it to another, you have to rely on that in someone's head and institutional memory to do that, right? And so I would call all of that this first step towards digital transformation. It's changing from an analog or maybe some sort of physical form into a digital form. And that's what we did. All right. It gave us a way to digitize that form and to organize the information. Like it would collect it and keep it in a place that you could go manually download it at some point in time. But really, this next step in the maturity model, this did what EDUCAUSE calls digitalization. That was a tongue tie there. Excuse me for stumbling over that. But this next step, if you will, is to use digital technology to transform the operations. It's to put true automation behind those forms, behind those processes, so that it is streamlined and documented and audited, so that every transaction, every case that runs through conforms to the process and that it complies with the requirements of the process. So having a platform and a strategy to automate and transform more processes like that, like you do the first one and then you go and you do another one, or maybe we do a cross-departmental and people start to see that a platform or automation of processes really is beneficial, then that's kind of how you get to true digital transformation, which is that series of shift that transforms an institution's operations, strategic directions, and value proposition. All right. So what do? Again, we enable change makers like you, like me, to build and automate complex enterprise level processes in order to make every second count. And for your transfer students, every second does count. They have lived for decades in a digital world. They've grown up in a digital world, and they have expectations of immediate feedback from their requests. They're likely uploading or requesting their transcripts online. They're having them sent electronically to the institution. They expect turnaround times and responses from you with similar type of experience. And often that doesn't happen in higher ed because those manual processes, once that transaction comes to us, is still fairly unprocessed. Like it's still manual, it's in someone's head. So this impacts admissions decisions. It impacts financial aid awards, and even registration for the upcoming semester, which may depend on those evaluation of transfer credits for those students. And it can cause delays for both the new incoming students in the admissions process, but also those returning students. So sometimes there was this new concept of that I read from ACRO. They called it a swirling transfer student. So they're swirling and they're moving in and out of your institution, bringing transfer credit, not just during the admissions process, but maybe every summer they're coming in and out of your institution. And so that brings additional transfer credit that needs to be evaluated and can impact your receipt of revenue if that student can't get in the classes that they need, right? So we had a couple institutions actually build a transfer credit evaluation process for themselves on the ProcessMaker platform. And one of them described the before and after like this. So the old process would take months. This particular institution required the students to go and meet with the faculty and get the approvals for the course equivalencies. And so this would be happening a lot of times in the summer months, and faculty we know are not all on campus during the summer. And the faculty would have long lines of students waiting for them to sign off on equivalencies. And so they built a process like what I'm going to show you today. And now their typical turnaround time for faculty to equate a course and make a decision is the same day that it's sent to them. And then they choose to just do one weekly update to their student system, but that could be configured. But to them, that was still, they went from a process that took weeks or even months, and they're getting a same day turnaround, and students are getting information within a week. So let's kind of talk a little bit about what a before and after might look like. So in my experience, either working in an institution and also talking to many institutions over the last decade, most schools are somewhere along that DX maturity continuum, right? Some of them are still using manual processes. It could be handwritten working documents for transfer equivalencies that might look like this. It might mean that they move to a document management system. I've seen this before, where they're using annotations in the document management system to write the equivalencies, and using a text format here, something like that. They might have moved to entering stuff instead of handwriting it on a form. They're putting it into spreadsheets and then emailing it around for a signature approval that looks something like this, instead of something that's actually authenticated and documented. So the only really evidence of this whole process taking place is that maybe it's the various images are stored in a document management system, or that they are stored on a shared drive somewhere, or it's in somebody's email program. I've seen and heard all of those scenarios, even within the last couple months, of institutions still doing these sorts of processes when it comes to transfer credit equivalencies. So what I'm talking about today is kind of having a single platform, a single application that keeps track of everything. And it is fully, every step of the process is tracked, and all the information that's related to that is also tracked. So it routes appropriately, every step is recorded, and all of the automation makes the whole process go much faster. So let's go see it. Let's go see what I'm talking about. So today, I am logged in here as a user by the name of Gina Registrar. And when Gina logs in every day, she is taken to a dashboard that looks like this. Now, this is created in our screen builder. This Gina is a transfer. We'll say that Gina is a transfer credit evaluation specialist, and she works in this environment every day. So she's going to be logging into the platform to perform work. This user experience is fully customizable to your institution's branding, to your you can put your logo and your colors and everything in. We've created the dashboard to have some quick buttons for types of work that Gina, as the transfer credit evaluation specialist, would be doing. And she might be doing things like creating new evaluations, configuring approvers, managing equivalency rules, and keeping track of the courses in the system. And the other thing, the user could have different dashboards for various types of processes. So, but this is just one example of the dashboard for transfer credit equivalencies processing. The user, you can see there's at the top, we kind of have these breadcrumbs of where they are in the system. And over here, we have where they can start new requests. They have a notifications button here in their profile. And as the next section right here, this kind of is a quick view. It just shows the most recent list of transfer equivalencies that have been run. So this is the recent evaluation section. All of this, again, is fully customizable. We're keeping information about the student ID, their name, what date it was created, and the status of their evaluation. You can search by institution name. You can search by student name here. You could also configure this space to track other information about the equivalency, maybe the admissions session and year, or maybe the class level, so that you could sort your work and right from the dashboard to see what's coming up next. Right now, in this example that we're going to show today, everything is most recent in is the first one showed on the top. So as we add evaluations, you're going to see them going to the top of the list here. You could have it sort alphabetically or any other way, depending on your choice. let's see, let's go scroll down. We can see there's a section for managing approvers and equivalency tables. And again, these are quick views. We do have buttons where we can manage the approvers both at the bottom of the screen. You also saw it at the top of the screen. So if I land on the equivalency page and I know exactly I want to go to that, I can choose it from a quick button at the top. But if I've scrolled down the page, I also can access those buttons, and I'm not having to scroll up and down the page. I can get to them right from here. So in managing the approvers, these also, if I click into this and click into manage approvers, I'm going to go to another screen. This is a call to collection in it's a feature of our platform. And this is really where you have the ability to control what are the fields that would route to someone for an approver. So in this space, you can also search, you can sort, you can configure the data elements, you can import them in from a CSV. You can add one record at a time. You can edit them. You can delete them if you have permission. So this is all permission based. For our example today, our approvers are going to be faculty who work in the various academic departments and perform course evaluations and make equivalency determinations. If your institution has different groups of people who would evaluate course descriptions to make those determinations, then you would still use the approver functionality, but it might not be based on department, or it might be instead of faculty, it might be people within your registration and records office or something along those lines. You can import this from a spreadsheet or databases via a CSV, or if the applications that you keep, like your course, your institutional or academic hierarchy, if that system has an API, we can pull in that data through APIs as well. So you're going to see through the demo today, everything from a low code environment, which is what you see here, to some levels of automation and integration. All right. So going back to our dashboard, let's look at the equivalency table. So from this view, we can see the most recent additions to the equivalency table. But if we go in and to manage equivalencies, we can see that there's much more information behind this. And again, this is all configurable into what you would want to see for your equivalency rules tables. All of this is configurable. What columns are shown in here, what information you're storing is all configurable inside the system. And then we can also import that in from another system. We can import it in if you're keeping it in spreadsheets. We can import it in if you're keeping it in a database, and we can do that through multiple modalities, either an API integration or CSV exchange, or even scripting if that's something that's allowed and something that you can do on your system. All right, so a CSV import works just like most any system. You browse, you find the file, and then you click import. But let's go back to the dashboard and let's start by adding a top. We can see here that we have a new evaluation we're going to upload. So I have choices to either import or upload. I'm going to do things very manually today. And so let's say that this morning, a continuing student drops by our office with their official transcript from another institution that they attended during the summer. It's sealed in the envelope, and we're going to go ahead and upload this into the system. So I'm going to click on new evaluation, upload. And here now we can see that a case has been started. You can kind of see the journey of the whole process along here. And this is a way that we can kind of see where someone is in the process. Down here, I have the ability to drop a file or upload a file. So we're going to go ahead and do that in just a moment. So keep in mind, again, I'm using an example of a student that's bringing a transcript into the front desk. But this process could be initiated in a variety of ways. So transcripts are likely received by the admissions, maybe the records office in their mailroom. They could be scanned into a document management system or even a CRM system these days. A lot of those are doing that. Maybe the transcripts are coming electronically. They might be coming in from the clearinghouse. They could be coming in from various other places like Parchment as a PDF. It might have XML attached to it, or you might be receiving even EDI from some external system like the Speedy server. So this system can import new evaluations from any of those sources, depending on how you how you get them. It could be coming in from a CSV file of data, could be coming from an API from your system, could be coming from even what we could place webhooks into your CRM and various other ways that would move and make our system aware of a new transcript that needed to be evaluated. Okay, and that would remove this manual step. But for today's demo, I'm doing the manual step just so you can kind of see how this would work. Okay, so we can also see which evaluator this has been assigned to. We could reassign it if we needed to, but I'm going to go ahead and click select file, and then I'm going to upload a transcript into the system, and then I'm going to click submit. So the next place is to go ahead and enter the student information. In this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and just have it type in the student's ID number and populate the information. Then we'll scroll down and start entering the transcript data into the form. This includes looking up the institution. It includes adding the session and year, the course number, course title, credits, and grades. And we're going to do this. We would enter this for every course on the transcript. So you'll remember that in the past, this type of a step might have been transcribing the courses onto that handwritten sheet that we saw in the picture a few slides ago. It might have been transcribing these courses into a spreadsheet. It might have been transcribing these courses into a third-party application or into your student information system. But those are all kind of siloed in where that information is. With a platform like this, instead of a spreadsheet, it has the data entry form that's going to power the rest of the entire process with full record keeping, full versioning, and having that audit trail. This is better than transcribing it into a spreadsheet that just might be saved on a local drive. Every single step in this entire process is going to be recorded and timestamped. And like I said, admittedly, I'm going to be demonstrating this with some manual tasks, but even with a more manual process like this is still much better than the totally manual processing from that handwritten or a spreadsheet and routing things around and trying to follow up with people to make sure that they did what they were supposed to do, right? So keep in mind that automation can really be on a spectrum. And in this particular step, on this particular solution, this is one area where we can start with this initial step towards improving a process with an ultimate goal for full hands-free transcription. So the next thing, if you think back to that three-step model for digitalization, that spectrum, the next step in that spectrum would be to add something like intelligent document processing capabilities to extract the data off of this transcript and place it into this form, right? Or receiving those PESC XML transcripts or EDI, which would then just import into the form, and that would be more of a hands-free transcription process. Okay, but again, we're gonna do it we're gonna go a little old school, do a little more manual, a little more of a low code process today to kind of show you that full spectrum. Okay, keep in mind we can integrate most data points where there is an API or even that CSV exchange of information to add various levels of automation. Okay, personally, so one of my roles was actually working in enterprise applications, and I have worked on transformation processes of various things at an institution over the years. And most of the time, it's best to kind of start low code, right? Not a lot of automation, just get the process down, make sure that that's spot on, and then add all the bells and whistles of automation, which allows the system to mature and become more sophisticated over time. So I just kind of wanted to put that in your mind as we show you what our process can do here today. All right, so once I enter the courses in and I click submit, The transfer credit evaluator, this is Gina, right? She would see a notification up here. So maybe if there were multiple people entering, or if you had, I'm just showing from Gina's perspective, but you might have different people doing each step of the process that's configurable to your institution. But there's what we call in-app. So Gina, because she's in the application, she would see that a new one has been added. And in her task list, we can also see that there was something added for her to do here. Okay. But you can have external notifications as well. People who need notification but don't work in this platform all day long. So that might be an email notification. It could be maybe a notice that gets updated in someone's online portal or in an intranet web page. It could be a user noticing and in a list of a new evaluations in the dashboard. So I'm actually going to click over and let's go look at Gina's. So she's got the notification up here, but then also the new pending evaluation for Thomas Curtis is now showing in her dashboard. So that's another way she can become aware of it. Okay. So we can click on this and she can open that case and she can see that when we did the data entry, one of the courses for Thomas auto matched against our equivalency table, and two of the courses are pending because there was no equivalency rule in the table. So in the background, all of this happened. Gina didn't have to go look them up. The system matched them for her. Okay. So also in the background, the system is going ahead and updating the student record with that equivalent course here at Summerlin University to the student's record. And it is simultaneously routing this to another person in the party or in the department to do some additional research. It also could be going out to a third-party system via API to gather the course descriptions for these new to Summerlin courses that have been presented to us. Now, at Summerlin, the system can be configured to notify so this is a decision that Summerlin made to notify the student when this process was started. So now that we've actually started the process, it automatically kicked off this email to Thomas Curtis and gave him information about what the next steps were, okay, and what he could expect about the process. And simultaneously, it sent an email to our student worker in our registration and records office. So here at Summerlin University, we use our student workers to research the course descriptions. Now, this is, again, a very low code solution. But in this case, we don't want the student worker to have to log into the platform. We're not going to give them access to any of our systems, in fact. They just need to receive an email that provides them a URL to access a screen or a form, okay? So again, this is all configurable based on your institution, but I wanted to show you the capabilities of the system and how you might be able to do this. I think this is actually very interesting. So we're creating an application here where one didn't exist. So in this case, the student worker clicked on that link and they're taken to in a browser into a web form. This form only provides the information that the student worker would need to know in order to research the course description. So as you can see, there's no personal information, only institutional information from the sending institution. The student worker would use whatever means they have available to them at your institution to research that course description and cut and paste it into the field. So you can see that the only fields that they can enter data into are these white fields. These fields are read only. Okay, so let's say that your student worker does have access to a third-party solution to look up course descriptions. They could just cut and paste that information into the form, or maybe you don't have a subscription to some of those providers, and they're just going out to the institution website, looking up the course catalog, finding the course description and the URL. So the system will document the description and the URL where that description was found, and then they would route it. They would route it to the department. They would select what department this would go to for routing, and that's their entire job. So once they filled all of this out, they would then submit it. Now, an enhancement to this would be something like what you see here. In the back, this would be happening in the background. I show it as a screenshot, but this really would be happening invisibly to the registrar's office. So if an institution has a subscription to the API for something like College Source or a similar vendor to obtain course descriptions, then you can use that API in the workflow. So instead of a user manually researching every course, this API would go out to College Source, bring back the image of the course description and return that into the form. And if that was captured, all that could be happening in the background, nobody having to look at it. And it would have the course description for the next step. So once, all I'm saying is there's different modalities of getting this depending on what subscriptions you have at your institution, what capabilities you have. All right. So if you recall from the dashboard, we have these approvers. So in the prior step, we would enter the course description and enter the department. It would come back here behind the scenes again, figure out which approver was appropriate for each of those courses. And if there were multiple courses going to multiple approvers, it would happen all simultaneously and in the background, right? So the system's going to automatically look up, see what department, who to route it to, and then go ahead and make that route. All right, so this is again all configurable based on your business process. Remember, for Summerlin, we have faculty for each department that are making the decisions. So, and what's happening simultaneously, as soon as the student hit the button and submitted those course descriptions, the next step happened, which was to send an email to those people. So in the previous we saw that biology was Bianca DeBio, and here is the email that was sent to Bianca. So I believe that faculty are likely going to be casual users of the system. It's unlikely that they're going to log into a platform on a daily basis to see if they have courses to evaluate, especially in the summer if they're not teaching, right? So I do think, though, that they will, they'll be checking their email like we all do, and they're going to be doing that often. So we've configured the system to send emails to faculty who are at that approval or review stage with just a URL to a form. We can have the faculty actually authenticate via single sign-on when they click the URL so that they are authenticated, and the system will actually keep an audit trail of them logging in and making these decisions. One thing to note on the email notifications, especially to faculty or these other infrequent users of the system, is that these can also be configured to resend automatically after a certain period of time, like 2 or 3 days, so that you're nudging and reminding them to take action. This is going to be especially helpful in improving turnaround times, and your staff doesn't have to do it. In today's world, if you're using a more manual process and your staff has to remember, okay, who do I need to remind today that they need to make a decision, right? That's a lot of work, takes a lot of time. So this is nice that the system you can set a timer and say, resend the email after 2 days. And so it's automatically nudging and reminding this faculty member to go in and click the URL and make the decision. So let's go ahead and click the URL here. And what it does is just like for the prior user, it opens the form in a browser tab. And at this point, we can see that I'm using my finger here. Let me use the pointer. Now we're at the match courses stage of the process. And on the left-hand side of the screen, we can see the external sending institution information, the course number, course title, number of credits, the course description. What we don't see here is there's no student information, there's no PII. Faculty don't necessarily need to know who the student is to make a decision on a course equivalency. So that's very different than, in the past, sending them around information that might have been something that showed student information. So this doesn't allow any kind of bias into the system. It's just making a decision on the course equivalency. All right, so the faculty then just goes ahead and selects the equivalent course, and then they click submit. Okay, so now once those are being sent to all the different faculty. So if it's going to multiple departments, it's going to them all at the same time. Once all the course decisions and equivalencies have been set and been made, then we have configured the system to send Gina, our transfer credit specialist, an email saying, hey, by the way, this transcript evaluation has been completed and we've sent a transfer credit report to the student. So we saw earlier in-app notifications, we saw changes in the dashboard, and now we're seeing an example of an email being sent to Gina to let her know the status of something. We can also see in the dashboard that instead of Thomas Curtis's application being pending, it's now showing completed. All right. So in the background, in this configuration for Summerlin University, but remember, configurable depending on your institution's preferences, an email is sent to the student notifying them that the evaluation is complete. We give them more information. You can have it choose, if it needs to go from the admissions, like sometimes some institutions, all the communications come from the admissions office. You can configure all of that to go whatever your preferences are. In this case, we've had the system, not Gina, but the system automatically prepared a PDF and attached to this email and sent it out to the student. This also could be sent in a portal as opposed to sending in an email. It could be put into your document management system. There's various ways that this could be sent. I'm just using email as one example, but let's go ahead and click and open the PDF. So again, this is all branded. This is again a screen that's in our system that you would build and determine how all of this data gets placed, and it creates the transfer credit report. Now, we are not a degree audit system. So all we're doing is saying this course from the sending institution equals this course at our institution for this number of credits. This information could then be stored back into your student system or back into your degree audit system for further processing. But right now it's just it's a pure equivalency transfer credit report. And you can make this look any way that you want. All right. And simultaneously, so Gina got her email, the student got their email with the PDF, and the admissions office is getting an email. The admissions officer is getting an email as well saying that the transfer credit report has been completed. This was the email that we sent to your student, and the PDF is also attached for them. And the one last thing that's happening in the system is that collection of the equivalency rules is also going to get updated. So every time a new course is evaluated, it gets added to the equivalency rule table. And the next time that same course from that same institution for the same semester is submitted, it's just going to automatically route. So the system is getting smarter and more efficient with every single addition. And a person's not having to remember to go add it into a spreadsheet or add it into a system. It's just all being documented and kept inside one single system. All right, so let's go back to this. That's the end of the demo. That's where we are today with our solution. But I wanted to let's go back to and revisit this digital transformation of a transfer credit process specifically. We kind of talked about digital transformation in general before. Let's talk specifically about what it is for a transfer credit process. So digitalization was moving from transcribing by hand or in spreadsheets, right, or network shares. And digitalization would be using process automation, like something like ProcessMaker, to streamline the process by automatic matching, lookups, routing, evaluations, forms, screens, and updating the rules engine and the knowledge bases so that the system gets smarter over time. And then we can really make a digital transformation of this one process. We can get really sophisticated at a later stage in the maturity of the process by extending it to integrate via API, automatically update and your host applications like your student information systems or your CRM systems. We can add single sign-on. We can add API integration to those third party to capture the course descriptions. We can add intelligent document processing capabilities to extract the data off of the images instead of doing the manual data entry into the forms. And then we could also add a series of reporting and process analytics that could measure your performance from your old processes to your new performance times, but then also maybe benchmark and compare yourself to other universities. We have the capabilities to do that within our platform to extend a process as you get it implemented and start this transformation journey of that one process. One thing I did not show you today, I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse, but we talked about the process and what the transformation would look like from the user, from the staff member, or from the student, from the staff member, and from the faculty's perspective. The administration of the platform, if you're interested in looking at that, we certainly invite you to contact us and we'll take a deep dive and look at it under the hood. But behind the scenes, I did kind of want to give you a screenshot of this, is our process designer. So we use what's called business process modeling and notation. It is a standard language, which are these little symbols. This is very easy. It's drag and drop, and you can design out a process. Okay, so again, if you're interested in taking a look behind the scenes, I'm seeing what it looks like, we're more than happy to have another conversation and talk about that. And then finally, I'm going to, we will send you all as a follow-up, and maybe I can grab the URL to this on our website, but it is a list of all of the different types of process automations that our customers have built on our platform for themselves. And as you can see, transfer credit is one of them. But I know that this is very hard to see. I'm going to send you something that you can look at more closely. But what I'd like you to take away from this is, when you purchase or you could consider purchasing software, a lot of them will do one application, right? Or they'll do one thing. A platform like a digital process automation solution like ProcessMaker allows you to have a platform that you can build across processes and automate them around the entire campus. As a matter of fact, I have 2 pages of this. Like HR and the registration and records are generally the 2 offices that have had the most traction, but it is being used. These are all real processes from our customers that they have built for themselves. We now have approached, remember in the beginning, I talked about how ProcessMaker is approaching, we're building point solutions. Transfer credit is one of the first ones. So we can help you that you're not building these for yourself. We can actually help you implement our platform with that particular use case. But then you have a platform in place that if a pandemic hits and you need to build very quickly a bunch of processes to respond to that, you have something in place, like the institutions that were able to very quickly build things for responding to the pandemic, or flex work and all kinds of other different types of processes. So with that said, we'll get this over to you, but I also wanted to take the time and see if anyone has any questions.
Does this system allow attachments?
Yes, it does. So if you remember in the beginning, we kind of uploaded the document. Let me see here. In the beginning, we kind of uploaded the transcript. That was an example. Let me just go here. Yeah, here. No, that's the CSV. Okay, here. This is what you're seeing right here is an example of being able to add attachments. In this case, we just said it was the transcript on this form, but you could have other attachments at any point in a process for anything. So if you had something specific, we could talk a little bit more about that. But yes, this is an example of where you can put into a form the ability to have a button that allows the user to select something from their computer or a shared drive, any place that they can access through that upload file. So yes, you can add attachments. And I would also say it's not just a form for like the student to do. At any one of these steps, these screens that you saw here, if there's a reason for that step to add attachments, you could add a file attachment just like that.
It says, do you have an example of a published public-facing form?
So this is a published form. It's not transfer credit. I don't have one on transfer credit to show you that's public facing, but this particular one is a public facing form that's on Ellucian workflow, which is ProcessMaker.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
And we have another question. How many schools are using the platform to complete transfer credit evaluation?
So there's definitely 2 institutions that have built this out for themselves. So at this point, they are referenceable. So if you would like to be put in touch with them, we can do that. And we're more than happy to take a deeper dive. If you would like to do that, we can schedule a deeper dive into our platform and show you how it can be built out this way, and talk about what kind of areas and additional add-ons you might enjoy.
Perfect. All right, well, I think that is it for today. Well, Joy, what an informative session. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for connecting with us today. We'll hope you'll join us again for our next webinar. We'll be sending out invites in the upcoming weeks. Thanks again, everybody, and have a wonderful Labor Day holiday.
Thank
Have a
you.
great one. Bye.
Bye.